Do you think people are missing a trick, not doing a few years of one-to-one, where they can, because as you said, they're in the gym, people are coming to them, they see you with coach on the back, where they can just work with anyone that comes on the door? Because it's very hard to find a niche if you've never had some time working with everybody to find out who you work best with, who you connect with, who you get results with. Do you think people should go one-to-one, or is there a way of doing that online?
I would definitely say that working one-to-one will be your best bet to gain experience, knowledge, to build basic communication skills, to increase skills as a coach, because being a coach is a skill in itself, having empathy, knowing when to put an arm around the shoulder.
And it's a real intangible skill to be able to kind of see somebody and go, I know when you're making an excuse and I know when you're genuinely struggling, without even saying a word. It's just reading between the lines and knowing which approach you take. Less and less people have this ability to do that. So, Mike, I've been looking forward to this show because you're not the first business mentor I've had on the show, but I do think that you and Dan are an absolute breath of fresh air. My own mentorship, my business is basically helping coaches get better results with their clients. And it was kind of born out of this business mentorship where online coaches are now going into worrying about getting lead magnets and DM strategies, but they actually haven't got a product to fucking sell. And you guys kind of cut through the bullshit and the shiny object syndrome. So I want to start this by kind of getting you on maybe a little bit of a rant. And what are some of the things that really grinds your gears when it comes to the fitness business space?
Cool. So firstly, thank you for those compliments. So, that's good to hear. So probably just based off that kind of short that short blurb, probably the same things as yourself, to be honest. I think, and I guess, by definition, that's why I'm probably, is that our values probably align in terms of that. But I just think that when I was getting into the industry, obviously online coaching weren't as prevalent. So there was actually nothing that taught anybody how to coach well online, how to gain clients, and what systems to use, how to analyze and program nutrition and training, and how to retain clients. There was nothing like that. You would obviously get qualified as a PT. There's various other kind of nutrition type qualifications to go, but there's actually nothing there to mold you as an online coach. And obviously over the last 3, 4, 5 years, there's been like an uprising of mentors. And I just sat there, and obviously I've spoken to numerous amounts of coaches who have been within mentorships and so on and so forth. And I don't know, it just feels like back in the day when I was trying to learn to be the best coach. I was going to seminars, I was listening and reading like Brad Schoenfeld, Alan Aragon, like Lane Norton, like James Krieger, really going in depth in terms of upskilling myself as a coach. Now these days it's almost like the gold standard is no longer about being a better coach, it's about how much money somebody can make. And I believe that mentors and mentorships are at fault to some degree, quite a lot of a degree, I think, because they're presenting this image that being an online coach is easy, that you can reduce your working hours, that you can scale a business to silly amounts of numbers, which you can, of course, do all of those things. But what they're not talking about is the glaringly obvious kind of points where it's all predicated on you being a good coach, being able to get good results, being able to get referrals, being able to retain your clients, being able to give a good service. Nobody really talks about that anymore, and it's more about cash collected, and it's more about get your VA to send this amount of messages, and it's more about what upfront numbers can we sell to people. And I just think that there's just something a little bit dark and a little bit murky about that stuff, because at the end of the day, when all said and done, the people that you're squeezing money out of is the hard-working general public who's reached out to you, that trusts in you to help them. And yet they're being presented as a number or finances in the bank, and then lauded around these mentorships, because this coach must be amazing because they've sold £10,000 of packages this month. And it's like, are they amazing? What's the service like? What's their retention like? What are their results like? Yes, they've been able to, use tactics to sell £10,000 of products this month. Is that really a business? Does that last? Does that stand the test of the time? And it just is winding me up quite a bit, I would say, that there's this narrative within the industry at the moment with these mentors, making it look like this, pushing this on coaches, and coaches are coming into the industry, and this is like now the norm. They're then looking at the next coach and the next coach and the next coach, comparing themselves. How do they stack up? They're earning a 10 grand month. I'm only earning 4, and we say only 4, like it's not a lot of money these days. And I actually can't believe where it's got to. I almost feel like there's a bubble that will burst, and I hope that it does. I really hope that it does. I almost feel like, hopefully, that this is a trend and that we revert back to like like almost like normal at some stage. I don't know whether it will or not, but yeah, it's just a little bit. I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me. There's just something in my gut that doesn't sit right, and I'm probably sure, I'm relatively sure that we'll probably expand on some of the things later on in terms of like specifics. But some of the things that I've heard, like, it's not nice, to be honest.
I look at this as well as like people, you say comparison. I think comparison is a really interesting word because people compare to only the amounts of money they make, but also sort of how you live. They talk about how streamlined and scalable and systemized, and people are looking to scale before they even know how to actually handle one client. And they paint this picture. The one that always gets me is that when they go like, people, you can work from the beach. I'm like, I've never been to a beach which has good enough Wi-Fi connection to do my check-ins. What the realistic thing is, you're going to be sat in an office doing work instead of working in a gym doing work. You're spending less time in the place you wanted to be when you first got into personal training. And I think everybody, and I don't know if this is the same with the guys in your mentorship. When I first got into online coaching about 7-8 years ago, I was like, send a couple of emails, add a bit of extra money to my bank account. This is easy. But if you don't have systems in place, it's a clusterfuck. And it's, I think, harder than one-to-one PT because you have to like manage so many different things without actually being in person with somebody to explain the difficulties and minimize overwhelm.
Absolutely. I would agree. I would say that running an online business is much harder than running an in-person business. So like with in-person, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not easy, but with in-person, you're in a gym. So people are going to be brought to that gym by the gym, not you, more than likely. It's going to be the gym. So the people that are within that gym probably live in a radius within the gym. They're already attending. They must be somewhat into fitness, otherwise they won't be in the gym. And they're already paying money to help their health or their fitness because they're paying for gym membership. They also then see you in the gym with coach written on your back, and training your clients. You then can chat to them on a day-to-day basis. Morning, how's your weekend? How's the missus? Would you like a spot? And again, it's easier to market yourself online because your target market is there. It's all in one place. Online is much harder to market to because you don't have that pool of people. You don't know where they're coming from. And it's much harder to be able to connect with those people online than it is face-to-face because it's less tangible. There's less there to work with. And there's no real way of knowing whether they actually want help with their fitness in an online setting, whereas everybody in the gym probably does. So then you then go into looking at one-to-one versus online coaching. So one-to-one, again, I feel like you could probably build a deeper connection, a deeper relationship with that client because you're meeting with them in person once or multiple times weekly. So therefore, I believe it's probably better for client retention. With online, if you don't have the ability to connect to your client and to build that relationship, A, I don't think your retention is going to be long enough. B, because of that, I don't think you're going to get the results that you should probably be getting. And C, if you're not getting the results, you're probably not getting the referrals and stronger lead generation. Your lead generation is going to be predicated on the amount of results. How likely am I going to be to get a result in the direction that I want with this online coach? If you're getting no results, probably unlikely. So your lead generation is going to be pretty slow. So unless you have the systems to be able to build that relationship with that client, you're going to really struggle. So you'll see like a lot of coaches use, for example, I've seen like it's called Leverage Coach, like a leverage coach system, which is basically a traffic light system of does this client need a check-in this week? So it'll ask a few arbitrary questions about how their week's gone, whether they've lost weight. And if they have lost weight and everything's going good, it says, spits back out, you don't need a check-in this week. Good luck, carry on. And I've had clients come to me from other coaches in the past when I was doing predominantly fat loss stuff, and they'd not heard from the coach for like 7 or 8 weeks. So then I go, well, what are you paying for? And at the moment, I just feel like everything about online is, like you said, it's this illusion of making it easier, making it scalable, make it really profitable, living on a beach and not doing any work. And it's like, in what world does that ever translate into success? And people that are spouting that, what do you think that they're trying to do? They're trying to sell you something. So of course that's going to sound the sexiest. Do less work, live on a beach, earn loads of money. I get that sounds sexier than going, well, no, it's going to be really hard graft. You're probably going to have to work on weekends, evenings. You are going to have drop-offs at times. Your business isn't going to increase every month. You probably will feel some anxiety at certain stages. You are going to have wobbles. You're going to doubt yourself. You're going to deal with crap clients. Some people are going to drop off. Some people are going to cancel the payments. Some people will ghost you. That doesn't sound sexy, but it's the reality.
I also think as well that a lot of what the business mentors are teaching is it's so focused on the quick buck. It's so focused on the, right, this is what my client hit an $8,000 month, a $12,000 month, that you end up with thousands and thousands of fat loss clones. Whereas when you're looking at I'm going to throw the education space out there because this is who I think is the best coaches in the world because this is the industry that I'm in and my competitors. But you look at your Luke Lehmans, your Jordan Shallows, your Pat Davidsons, your Kassem Hansons, they're not dancing to trending audio showing off a protein yogurt, right? They are being unapologetically themselves. They know where their business are and it's undeniable. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on what's going to be the thing that really starts to grind my gears is the rise of fitness business content people. Now, I don't think any of these are doing bad jobs. Some like Simon Mitchell, Simon Booth, fantastic at what they do. But I look at some of the things is the trending audio more important than the fat loss result that you're getting with your clients? And I've seen people invest in these before they actually invest in their actual results with people. Do you think, if you were a new coach today, where would you put your time first?
Okay, so it would probably be in the exact same place I put it back when I started. And maybe I'm biased, but I don't actually think that anything has changed with building an online business. So what I did to start out was I got qualified as a PT. I got qualified with, back then, I think it's still running, but BTN Academy as a nutritionist. I then did the Shredded by Science course, got qualified. I listened to hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of podcasts. And so at that time I had another job. I was full-time in the Air Force. And I used to listen to a podcast on the way to work, during work. So I used to have the luxury of being able to use my earphones whilst I was working. So I used to literally listen to podcasts through the day. On the way back, I would get up and I used to have revision Fridays, and I would do about 2 or 3 hours of going through research on a Friday before work. So I would be getting up at 5 a.m. to make sure that I could get that in. And it was based off the fact of I wanted to be the best coach possible, because what would the point of me getting in 10 clients be if I couldn't coach them well, if I couldn't get a result? I was inspired to get the best result. And what got me into the industry wasn't the thought of earning a $10,000 month, because actually that term never came that wasn't even a thing back then. Again, yeah, you've been doing this a similar length of time to me. It's that didn't exist. No one was saying that. Obviously, people would earn that, but it wasn't as a built-up kind of arbitrary number to aspire to. So,
I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. I generally I accepted that I would probably make less money for the rest of my life because I've chose to be in the fitness industry. And now, I'm nowhere near where I want to be financially. But when I started, I wouldn't even dreamed of making what I've made in the last 2 years, let alone what people are now thinking they're going to do in month one.
And that's the issue, is that I think people are getting into it for the wrong reason. So like, what I got into it for is because in my early 20s, so I basically started when I was 27. So I started when I was 27. I'm now 35. So I've been in the industry 8 years. But in my early 20s, so I'm talking 20, 21, 22, obviously, you probably don't need an explanation of what early 20s are, to be fair. And, I was this underconfident person, underconfident guy, really self-conscious. Obviously, those years, you're probably trying to attract the opposite sex and things like that, and a lot of your self-confidence or self-worth might be down to that. And I was trying to train, I was trying to get in shape, but I could never really get there because I was listening to the wrong advice. I was spending probably £200 that I didn't have per month on supplements that weren't working. I hired a coach that was pretty appalling, pretty dreadful at that time. I would train for 4 hours a day, no joke. I would do full body sessions, but each body part was a full session. So I'd do like 6 exercises on chest, 6 on back, 6 on shoulders. I used to think that cardio burned fat and training built muscle. So I would do both in the same session and thinking I was going to get leaner gains and all sorts of things, right? So when I got into the industry, it was to help that earlier version of me, because I thought if I could have just found somebody that could have cleared up all of that rubbish, I might have got in shape sooner. I might have felt a little bit more self-confident a little bit sooner, and I wouldn't have wasted these hundreds of pounds on supplements or bad coaches or listening to this forum or reading every fucking episode of every like men's health subscription. Like, that's why I got into the industry. I wanted to do it because I was passionate. And I remember listening to a podcast on my way to my military job. And the podcast said, choose a profession that you would literally do for free and make money out of it. I remember hearing it. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn to be the best coach I can be because I'm passionate about this. I already had an interest in nutrition and training. I was already doing it myself. I was coaching, the football team in the RAF and all of that stuff. And I just went for it. And now it's presented as, I never hear this speak anymore of people trying to be the best coach that it could be. Like, I hear, it's more like, how much money can I make? What the numbers are? How many clients do we have? It doesn't matter. So when you're asking about what I would do to start, I did the same things. I would upskill myself as a coach. I would absorb as much knowledge as I could from whichever pathways that I could at the time, the people that I would respect and the people that I knew had superior knowledge to myself. I would absorb as much as possible. I coached my first 5 or 6 clients for free. I got great results. 3 of them did a photo shoot and 1 of them competed and came second. Got me a great amount of social proof, obviously, off the back of that. Yeah. That built. I did some research into marketing. So I used to listen to Paul Mort's podcast about email marketing. I started to email market and put myself out there, and it built from that. At no point would it have ever occurred to me to make a video of me dancing on camera to show what food I was eating. At no point. And I would say to anybody that does that, again, without, respectfully and not without calling you out, if you're looking to employ a coach to help you with your physique, who do you go for? Because I bet you that it's not the person dancing on reels or the person giving you a high-protein Aldi shop. I bet you it's not. I bet you the type of coach that you're going to go for, the people listening to this, is somebody with results, knowledge, experience, that's likable, of course, that is professional. Like, those are the things that you're going to look for. So then why within your own marketing are you doing the exact opposite of that?
I always think when I see people doing these sort of like dancing to trending audio or these little things when you dance in the room and point, which, what kind of coach they are. And I look at it a little bit like, when you get a Facebook memory and you look at your old Facebook statuses and you go, oh my God, why did I spell like you as the letter U and put like numbers in there? Or like, and again, it could be a noble profession to some, but I can imagine most girls on OnlyFans in their 40s when they look back at their 20s and like, oh my God, why did I do that? I think this is the same thing. When you get to the point of being a professional coach, you go, why was I doing that? Because there's no, like you said, there is no way the people that I would look up to would do that. So why do I think that It's because you're thinking it's a quick buck, because it might get more eyes and make your post go viral. But does a viral post don't necessarily mean anyone's wanting to buy from you.
So trends are short-lived, but if you build the foundations, that will last a lifetime. So if you do go viral, and let's just say you did get 20 clients in next week, can you coach them? Can you onboard them? Can you retain them? Can you get a result with them? So unless you learn that and you're able to do that, everything you're building is on quicksand. It's going to, and I would hypothesize, now this hasn't happened yet, right? But there are people out there going viral with stuff. And I'm going to call this, in 12 months' time, their accounts are going to be dead. The reason why I think this is that when somebody's making a funny video, they might get quite a lot of people that follow them now. Now, in 7 months' time, when they've seen the same video over and over and over again, just rehashed in a different way, that's going to become quite boring. And if they haven't bought from them by that point, they're probably never going to buy from them. And I'm going to hypothesize that they'll stop watching their videos. Now, if you've built yourself up to 400,000 followers, you're not going to have all of those followers drop off. You're going to have a lot of them that stay following you, but just do not engage with your stuff. So if they're not engaging with your stuff, Instagram is going to recognize that, and they're going to know that nobody's viewing it. It's not going to get pushed very far. And you imagine trying to find a client base out of 400,000 unengaged people. Like, where are they? So I just had a consultation with a guy who he was on Love Island 5 or 6 years ago. He got 500,000 followers. I asked him how many clients he'd got. 3. And he said it was actually refreshing to hear me talk about the fact that just because you're on Love Island doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get clients. Because he said that every other person he'd spoken to was telling him how easy it should be because he's got 500,000 followers. And I said, look, dude, it's like you do have 500,000 followers, but they all followed you when you were on Love Island 5 or 6 years ago. I was like, they all either A, fancy you, or were interested in Love Island at that time, but none of them are necessarily interested in coaching with you. So 5 or 6 years later, I don't, without using the word irrelevant, but irrelevant as such. So that 500,000 followers is not a true reflection of the people that's there sat waiting for coaching. And I think that the people going viral now, that's what's going to happen in a year's time. I genuinely believe it. And I would also say that, like you just said there, that if you do get X amount of followers, it doesn't mean that they're going to be engaged. It doesn't mean that they're going to buy from you. So I've got one client. You probably know him. Do you know Jack Gadd?
No, I don't.
Do you know Jack? You don't? Okay, no, so he's been around for the same time as us. But he'd gone viral. He'd listened to some bad advice. He'd gone viral. He'd made like a chicken fucking sandwich. He got like 1 million views. He came to me with 103,000 followers, right? And his story views were 400. And I was like, dude, it doesn't matter what the number at the top of your page says because you've got 400 people actually watching your stories. There's 100,000 people that are following you but don't really give a shit, otherwise they'll be watching your stories. So we've actively had to try to lose clients by really niching down to get rid of the people that we don't want. So he came in, having been in the industry for 8 years, 100,000 followers, and since growing, his coaching business had actually decreased to I think he won't mind me saying, but a relatively worrying degree, I would say. We managed to turn it around. He's doing well now, so on and so forth. But it's just another piece of evidence for me that it's like, don't focus everything on growing an audience for the sake of growing an audience. Don't do it. Grow the right audience by putting out the right information to the people who need to hear it in your voice. And then the right people will start to follow you. Engage with those people over time. And it will be those people that come into your coaching and they will be the right fit. You'll retain them longer and you will get better results.
I've got a couple of questions off the back of that. A lot of things there is kind of the more you niche down and how important it is to niche down especially when you're working online, you've got to appeal to everybody. So do you think a lot of coaches that are going into the online space, because I see more and more coaches that start online, their first PT job is behind the laptop. Do you think people are missing a trick, not doing a few years of one-to-one where they can, because as you said, they're in the gym, people are coming to them, they see you with coach on the back, where they can just work with anyone that comes on the door? Because it's very hard to find a niche if you've never had some time working with everybody to find out who you work best with, who you connect with, who you get results with. Do you think people should go one-to-one, or is there a way of doing that online?
So, I actually went straight online 8 years ago, so I never did one-to-one. What I will say is that I learned the ability to go one-to-one, and I used to coach my friends and people in the Air Force. So whilst I weren't employed as a one-to-one, I kind of was doing it. I've also got some clients who have gone straight into online and been successful as well. But if you're asking me the question of would I recommend somebody being a one-to-one PT first or not for the general population, I would say definitely. I would definitely say that working one-to-one will be your best bet to gain experience, knowledge, to build basic communication skills, to increase skills as a coach, because being a coach is a skill in itself. Having empathy, knowing when to put an arm around the shoulder, knowing when to give a kick up the arse. Again, these are all skills that you need to develop. And I believe that if you're past some clients, i.e. in a gym setting where you've got a little bit more face-to-face, I believe that you need to, or you should hone that craft, and it is easier to hone that craft in person than it would be to do that almost blindly online. So I would say, as a blanket guide, I would say yes, probably go in person first. I would say there are some anomalies, myself probably being one of them, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I totally agree with that, and like knowing when to push and knowing when to kick someone up the arse. Because another thing I often see is more coaches that I'm not necessarily someone that says a coach needs to be like the cover of a Men's Health magazine all year round, but I see more and more people that have never been in shape themselves, and it's a real intangible skill to be able to kind of see somebody and go, I know when you're making an excuse, and I know when you're generally struggling, without even saying a word. It's just reading between the lines and knowing which approach you take. And I think less and less people have this ability to do that.
Yeah, I would say I agree with those points. I don't think that somebody needs to walk around chiseled all year, because some people can genetically, some people can't. But I do think that there needs to be some degree of being able to walk the walk, and I think the empathy that you're able to gather from that. So, like when we talked about when I started out. So the first thing that I did alongside those things was I actually dieted down for a photo shoot, and then it actually turned into a competition. I didn't really have any interest in dieting for a competition, really. It was never like a dream or anything like that. It was born out of the fact that I asked the football team on an away game. I went round and I said, if you were to join up with a coach, both of them had the same qualifications, but one had competed and one hadn't, who would you go with? And they all said the one that had competed. So I was like, looks like I'm competing. But actually, during that process, it taught me what hunger was. It taught me what satiety was. It taught me what lethargy was. It taught me what true cravings were. It taught me what it really meant to feel like you wanted to give up. It taught me about social pressure. It taught me about discipline to navigate social situations. And if I'd have not done that, I don't know whether I would be able to coach it as effectively. Because, like you just said there, you kind of know what signs to look out for. You can empathize with the persons that are going through it. You can provide useful tips. You can provide reflections on that. And again, I think if you're blind to that, if you've never experienced that or been through that to get to those places, I just don't think you will be able to coach it effectively. Knowledge is one thing. You get this kind of straw man argument from coaches who have never been in shape, where they will say, but Alex Ferguson weren't as good as Ronaldo. And you kind of go, okay, well, you're kind of like, you're dismissing a lot, because Ronaldo's the player and Ferguson is the coach. So you are kind of dismissing a lot. But I don't feel like if I'd have done the same nutrition qualifications, the same training qualifications, listened to all the same podcasts, and I had have not done those diets or practiced what I preached and walked the walk, I don't think I would have coached the same. So it's not a case of knowledge, because there's a degree of experience that comes with doing it yourself.
100%. So going back into the niche thing, I think this is a really interesting where a lot of coaches get stuck. And it's something I felt firsthand. Like, I've been in the industry 13 years. I've ran education and mentored for some of the biggest PT companies in the world. And I came out with an element of like knowing I could get results. And I got into the online space and cricket, absolutely nothing. And what I realized is that if I was given Susie from Slough, I could get Susie from Slough in shape. But I couldn't go and speak to Susie from Slough's pain points on Instagram to make her care about me to sign up with me in the first place. And that's where I was finding that I was really, really struggling to connect with people. It was a totally different world. Then I switched into the mentoring game because that's what I've been doing for 7-8 years. And I understood the pain points of coaches and what they struggle with and the stuff that we're talking about. And in my last intake of my mentorship, I got out 16 people. I had 2 people that booked a call. The rest of them just paid for it. And the stark difference of just being able to find a niche that I could resonate with and put my content with was awesome. But like the question I sort of have for you is, one, how does a coach stand out rather than being coach 374? And if someone's newer to the industry, like how would they go about their content strategy if they need to just try and work with everyone to start with?
So finding a niche, right, is not necessarily what people think it is. So I've seen some mentors say that you don't need a niche. And I think that probably demonstrates a lack of understanding around what a niche probably is. So what people would guess what a niche would be gender, profession. That's what people would go to, right? When it's not necessarily. So it can be down to personality type. So it could be that the fact that if you gathered every coach in one pot that have got, let's say, 50 plus results, right? So there's unequivocal evidence that they can get results and do their job. So then what makes each one of those stand out? It's a personality type, right? Usually it's a personality type. So for us, yes, my marketing was geared towards probably guys who wanted to get into photo shoot shape without, doing the typical bodybuilder stuff. That was kind of where I was aiming at. Did I still have the middle-aged woman who needed to lose 4 stone? Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But what I found is that there was a commonality between all of them where they didn't take themselves too seriously. They liked the approach that I took in terms of it wasn't too serious. It was a bit more lighthearted, that there was some self-deprecating humour in there and little pokes at the industry. That they all kind of had similar work ethics because of the content that, again, I was putting out. That it was rare that I would get the really lazy kind of slack ones. It was rare that I would get someone go, bloody hell, is that the price? Because they kind of got the gist from my content. So because of the content that I made, that's the people that I got back. So this traditional kind of, it's a male who's between 25 and 35 called Steve, who lives in Swindon and he's left-handed. Like that is what I think people think that an avatar is, whereas an avatar is not that. But for an X amount of people in the world, you will be the best coach in the world for them. And for X amount of people in the world, I'll be the best coach in the world for them. And then the next person, and then the next person, and then the next person. Doesn't matter who's got more knowledge, whatever, right? But my values, my principles, my sense of humor, my personality will click with X amount of people better than anybody else could. Hence, that's the reason why we've all got friends, right? We've all got our friendship group. You click with those friends, and you've got your partner, you've got your missus, and me too. Again, same thing. It's exactly the same thing as that. So when I look at niching down with people, my job is to help people find that exact X amount of people that they are the best person for. So for me, what I do is I draw out who that they think they would want to coach in an ideal world. We'll look at traits, we'll look at similarities, we'll look at trends. We'll then look at what makes them the perfect coach for this person and why they think they would be the perfect coach. So a question that I ask them is, why would someone sign up with you rather than me? Right? I've got all of these results back from the years of coaching, but why would someone sign up with you rather than me? And whatever that answer is, that's the thing that you need to outline on social media. Whatever that answer is, that is it. Because I am a representation of every other coach out there. So whatever you say, where you would have that answer of, this is what I would say I would got over you. That's what you've got over every coach. So lean into that. So for some people, it might be that they've got 15 years of experience. For some people, it might be that they've high-level biomechanics. For some people, it might be that they work great with people who are ex-swimming world and they know all of their problems and how to manage it. Whatever that skill set is, lean into that. So that's what I tend to help people do, is find that X amount of people that they're the perfect coach for, and then be able to describe that online to, over time, attract more of that and therefore get better results with those people.
What would you do if somebody couldn't answer that question? If you asked me that and I said, I don't know, why would someone would sign up for me over you? Like, how can someone start to find out what they're leaning into?
So I would say, if you can't answer that question, how is anybody going to sign up with you? If you don't know why someone should sign up with you, they're not going to. There needs to be an element. My answer will always be back to them that. And then what I will say to them is, the reason why someone would sign up with you rather than me is because of you, because of your personality. So some people might not like me, and that's fine. But there's going to be people that like you. So what I try to tell people is to be as authentic as you possibly can be. So if you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, stop trying to be funny. Stop trying to dance around on reels. If you're boring, be boring. You'll attract 50 boring clients. Cool. If you're geeky and analytical, be geeky and analytical. You'll attract the geeks. Like, if you're stern and you're blunt, be stern and blunt. Don't be something that you're not. Because the thing that attracts people to you rather than me is you. Because the general public think that there's this magic answer, right? That all coaches have this knowledge of how to get in shape. So they all think that we all know the secret. So we should all be able to get people results. We should all be able to get people results, and we all can, right? So there's 3 things that somebody needs to sign up with you. Just 3 things online. The first one is now the right time for them? Okay. Now you can't influence that because if it's really not the right time, they're just not going to come in. If you can't afford it, if the boiler's broke, if they've got a baby due, they've got a wedding coming up, whatever it is, if it's not the right time, it's not the right time. We can provide an argument where it's like, January, sign up. Summer's coming, sign up. But if it's not the right time, they won't sign up. Number 2, will this person get me a result? So you show results, right? So now you're in the category with everybody else that's got results. And then the third thing is, do I like them? That's the only 3 things you need. And if somebody likes you, if it's the right time for them, and you've provided results that demonstrate, that looks like them, that sounds like them, they're more likely to sign up with you. It's never nailed on. There's no 100%, but you've stacked the chips in your favor. So the answer is how do you get people to like you? And that's by being yourself and being authentic, because you will attract people that are just like you. When you do that, you'll build a client base that are just like you. You'll therefore get on better with them. You'll therefore get better results with them.
I totally agree with that. And I think that's the reason why I've had so much more success since moving over into mentoring thing, because I am a nerd and I am analytical, and it gave me the ability to delve into that. And I love what you were saying about being unapologetically you. I love bringing things back to pro wrestling, because I got a feeling that you guys, at least in fans of 90s pro wrestling, because I've seen a few Ultimate Warrior inspired videos, but I always think the best wrestlers that resonated with an audience, the Stone Cold Steve Austins, the Hulk Hogans, the Roman Reigns, the insert person here, are people that are very much themselves dialed up to 11. So if you can find out who you are and then just dial it up to social media, you're going to speak to somebody who likes that personality of you.
That is nail on the head. So, like, the way that I describe it, right? So, obviously, like when me and Dan dick around with some of our content, we don't act like that if we're just sat there. Like, I don't take the mick out of Dan being bald and skinny, just for if we're on our own. I do it for the cameras. Like, it's our personality, but like you just said, it's the volume's turned up. It's us on fucking steroids, right? That's the way that you get your personality over. Whereas a lot of coaches actually dampen themselves down. They try to conform. They try to fit in. They try not to stand out. That's the worst thing in marketing. And I don't blame people, because, again, we've spoke about there is no qualification for online coach. There's no uniform. There's no badge. So when someone comes into online coaching, how do I look like an online coach? Well, I post the same as everyone else and to look like an online coach. That's the worst thing. When you're talking about marketing, You posting the same content as your competition, you're going to lose. Post different content to your competition. So that's exactly right, nail on the head. And if you think of anybody that is successful in the fitness industry, look at who they are. Do they have a personality? I bet you they do. Like, I bet you they've got a personality. Whether you like it or you don't like it, they've got personality. Joe Wicks, personality. Whether you like it or not, it's personality. James Smith, whether you like it or not, it's personality. Are these guys doctors? Like, do they know cutting edge research? No, probably not. But they've got personality, and that's what's attracted people in. They're able to convey their message in their own voice, and it resonates with X amount of people. And that's it. You look at anybody that is successful.
Do you think on the flip side of this that if you rush or aren't very good at dialing in your niche or conform with your niche, it actually is a hindrance? For example, here's the one I always get: is people will use and everyone moans about this, but I work with busy professionals because no one else is busy, who don't want to give up the foods they love. The people who have that in their bio are the people that speak to me about the bad client adherence they have. I'm like, well, you've just kind of self-selected the people that they haven't got time to do your plan, and they don't want to give up any foods, and then you give them macros and a meal plan. I'm like, well, you've self-selected people that are going to be difficult. Do you find that sometimes the stuff we spoke about at the start with coach and delivery and the stuff we've spoken about just now with niche kind of go hand in hand, why one doesn't get the results they want?
Yeah, 100%. By the way, it's funny that you're able to kind of reel off, probably thousands of coaches' bios there. Like, it's always the same. It's this generic mold of, it's so like binary. It's like, who's got money? Professional people. What are they struggling with? They're busy. What do they not want to give up? Foods that they love. Like, it's crap in it. Like, it's just crap. So putting that in your bio is a surefire way of A, blending in, but B, setting yourself up for failure. Like, of course it is. Because the first thing that you're going to do when someone comes in is, here's this training plan where you've got to do all of these steps, all of this cardio. Oh, and you know what? I told you that you don't have to give up the foods that you love. Well, yeah, you're going to have to give those up. Because everything that you've come in because of is a lie. There's absolutely no way that you can keep eating the way that you're eating and get results. Otherwise, you would have had them already. So every angle of their marketing is built on a lie. So again, that's the same thing with a lot of mentors, in my opinion, is that everything is being built upon a lie. It's, you're going to earn this, you're going to earn that. It's really easy, work from a beach. And then when clients come in expecting that, stupidly, that they expect that and don't get it, same problems occur. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's this thing that's sexy that sells. Because it sounds better. I work with busy professionals who want to skyrocket their confidence, get in great shape without giving up the foods that they love. Rather, that sounds sexy than going, I work with busy professionals who will have to give up probably all the foods that they love for a period of time. They're going to have more time stress because you're going to have to do more cardio and more steps. And you probably are going to have to segregate yourself from social events, work events. That doesn't sell. The other thing sells, but don't be surprised that you're attracting people who believe that to be true. So if you're going for a niche, if you're going for a niche, do not put that in your bio. Like, don't do it. Your niche is going to be, it needs to be realistic for one. It needs to be a real person. Number two, everybody's busy, so take that fucking thing out. Everyone's busy. We're all busy. And what the hell is a busy professional? Like, what's that? Like, if you're saying that you work with office workers, say that you work with office workers. Like, cool. Say that you work with office workers, whatever. The go-to coach for office workers that want to do this X, Y, and Z, right? Cool. That's absolutely fine. But stop just bracketing the same exact things, because you'll keep getting in the same exact shit, basically.
When it comes to coach delivery, going back onto that, because I find that a lot of niches, people are really good at having a niche. It starts and stops on their Instagram pages. And as you said, when they come into the process, they have no idea. And one of the things I like to help people with is trying to find, right, how does that niche translate into your product? The training approaches, the nutrition approaches, things like this. When we see coaching delivery, we see people just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping things stick. Education webinars when your client doesn't care. Like, in terms of touch points and communication and giving a service, what do you think coaches are wasting the most time on, and where should their attention actually be in terms of giving a high quality product?
So, coaches need to recognise that every individual that comes into coaching, even if they fit within a specific niche, let's just say I work with, I'm going to take a niche actually that one of my clients works with. So he's a go-to coach for dentists. So his is based on a profession. He does very well. He started last year with 5 clients. He's now earning a good amount of money. I think somewhere off the top of my head, he's around 50 clients and just brought on a coach himself. Doing really well. So I'm going to use his niche, dentist. Now, not every dentist needs exactly the same coaching just because they chose the profession of dentistry. Every single person that comes in to your coaching is an individual. So you're going to have to provide a moldable, adaptable style to your coaching. As soon as you start to, and it's amazing that coaches will slag off cookie cutter meal plans, but you're giving cookie cutter macro plans. Like, yes, the macros might be slightly different for each person. Well done. So would a meal plan be. But like you're saying, I'm going to give everybody a webinar. I'm going to track exactly the same things with exactly the same people. So I've had this where I've had to change some things around my client, what my clients do. So like, for example, I got one guy who probably won't mind me saying this, but or hopefully he doesn't, who wanted to work with like kind of guys to transform like their mindset and their body and so on and so forth. And from the get-go, he was getting everybody to start to meditate, journal, track all their food, exercise, do a call every 2 weeks, and then jump on a webinar. So, like, how do you know that everybody needs all that? No. So what you should actually do, and again, it's not born out of negligence, it's born out of wanting to give more from the coaches. So I understand it. Some coaches want to be the best coach they can be, provide as much what they believe to be value. When you realize that the value is the result and not the resources that you give them, that should change everything. So what can you do with that individual to get them a result? So I will start with the bare bones and build upwards. Bring in meditation for this type of person when the time is right. Not everyone on the roster, not at week 4 or week 8. What's to say that everybody gets there at week 4 or week 8? Bring in journaling with this person if it's right, at the right time. Give this person a call when they need it, not tell them that they have to have a call every 2 weeks. You need to be malleable and flexible. So how I coach my clients is different for all of them. Yes, I've got some framework, but there's little offshoots of this. Some of my clients, I'll ask them to text me every single day. Some of them I won't because they don't need that or want that. And actually, if I ask them to text me every single day, they would get put off by that. They wouldn't keep it up. They would then feel that they're failing, and then they would probably leave my coaching service early. So which is the better service? The one where they're texting me every day, or the one where they're not? Because coaches' usual rationale is the more I give, the better. No, better for that person, person A, but person B would be put off by that. So what I would say to coaches is have a basic framework and then build upon that per person, per client. And that's also going to fluctuate as the person progresses as well. Sometimes they're going to need more of a handhold, sometimes less so. Again, like we spoke about earlier, sometimes you need to know when to give a kick up the arse, but when to give an arm around the shoulder. Again, it's the art of coaching. It's nothing that you can learn in a textbook per se. It's what comes with experience over time. So again, coaches, I say, would waste their time on providing things like video libraries, onboarding libraries of silly amounts of information that's not going to get watched, for one. I would also say that Facebook groups for general population clients are probably not great as a generalization. I would probably say 90% of coaches probably don't need them. Again, it's just wasting time. Nobody's going to be motivated to post in a Facebook group when they can text you. They're not going to ask a question in there rather than asking a question over WhatsApp. So that's why your Facebook group dies. So again, it's coaches that try to provide more like information. It's like more information or resources or fluff, what they feel is value. Now, value is a result, so coach the person.
People need solutions and strategies. And this is why I'm so glad that you came up with the thing about meal plans. This is an absolute hate of mine, is that people will demonize meal plans. They don't teach you anything. Well, they teach you food, they teach you portion size, they teach you structure, they teach you routine, they teach you consistency. They give you a framework to start, they take away decision fatigue. I think macros only coaching, the analogy I always give, is like, you want to learn Chinese. Rather than giving you a Rosetta Stone tape, I'm just going to drop you in the middle of Beijing and say, we'll work it out. Most people are just going to get overwhelmed by that.
That's the thing, is that, and again, with that, the meal plan. So this is a prime example, right? So within my, let's just say within my marketing, let's just say if I attacked a meal plan, if I said that meal plans don't work, that's why you're still fat, right? Do I actually truly believe that? No. But if you think about who's listening to that, is the people that the meal plan they perceived didn't work for, right? So that's who my marketing is towards. The people who are getting success with a meal plan, they won't engage with that. Cool, they're not going to be my client. But the person who's probably tried a meal plan with a bodybuilding coach they didn't work with, and they might need a slightly different approach, that's who's going to listen to that. So that's just marketing. Am I going to go out there and say certain things about, am I going to blur my message between macros and meal plan or intuitive eating? No. Does it mean that I don't do it? No, absolutely not. Because there's some people that I have that track macros, that track just calories, that track protein and calories, that are on meal plans, that are intuitively eating. I have some clients that prefer to fast for breakfast. Like, again, there's no set way of coaching. And again, over time, it's malleable. Sometimes some people will start on just protein and calories. Then we might progress to all macros. And then when we're really trying to dial it in, it might be a meal plan. Again, it's knowing what the person wants and being an adaptable coach. Too many coaches are this: I'm either macros or I'm meal plan or I'm intuitive eating. Well, how about being able to coach all three? Because everybody probably needs an element of all three at some stage.
I think there's with coaches, a lot of people try to find a solution without ever asking the client what the problem is. And I think this is the thing is like, oh, someone's overwhelmed, so it must be my onboarding, or it must be this, it must be that. Like, have you asked them, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you struggling with? How can I help? And people want to systemize everything rather than sort of like actually having a conversation with the client and adding a human touch. Now, I know you've got to shoot in a couple of minutes, so I just want to ask you two final questions, and I'll let you get on your way. The first one is, you did a post a little while ago about the benefits of being self-employed versus being employed. And I would like to get you a little bit of your take on that, because I find, certainly in the fitness industry, I think there's a lot of coaches that go into the self-employed online route. And I'm sure that there are people that it's made for, that they wouldn't work with employed. But you don't see many lawyers starting self-employed practices. And I think it's because actually the employed positions in law are 100 grand bonus, cushy environment. Yeah, they work hard, but they get a lot. Do you think is generally, on the whole, better for most people to be self-employed in the fitness industry, or do you think a lot of people do it out of necessity because there's no better options in employment?
I think that most people within the fitness industry will likely go self-employed because of what they perceive to be beneficial in terms of self-employment, i.e., more finances, more freedom, because that's what's being sold. Do I believe everybody's suited to self-employment? Definitely not. If you don't like being on social media, I'm going to say forget being an online coach, because the words online coach is two parts, online and coach. So if you just want to do the coach part, go and be an in-person PT, probably employed by somebody. Yes, you will get an element of security from it. Sometimes it's an illusion, I will say, like employment sometimes is an illusion. So like, I don't know what post it is that you're referencing, but it could be potentially like in terms of I think it was a post where I did like some kind of half-assed attempt at drawing a graph. Was that the one? Or no?
I think so, yeah.
So yeah, the point of the post was that the top line was kind of fluctuating at the top, and it was indicating a business's revenue. And then the line underneath was a straight line, which indicated employment finances. So like when you're employed, you might be taking home, let's say you take home $3,000 a month every month, and it feels secure, but you don't know what the top line of the business is doing on a month-to-month basis. So you don't know. They could be in rapid decline. It's this illusion of security. So my point within the post was that if you are going to be self-employed, you're going to have to deal with that top line, because it's the top line that you're going to see. You're going to see the business go up and down. Just because you don't see that when you're employed doesn't mean it doesn't happen. You now have to be okay running a business. So, like, in terms of why people go self-employed, I do agree. I do believe that there's not much that's paid that well within sports in general. I know that Dan, my business partner, was the sports scientist and nutritionist for like Hull City, and I think Reading as well. So like the two decent football clubs. Hull City was in the Premiership at the time that he was there. I think he was roughly on around 24 grand a year or something like that, which again, to be working in the Premiership club as a head sports scientist and nutritionist, not a lot of money really. So I think as a rough generality within kind of fitness or sports-based stuff, unless you are a sports star, I think it's not particularly well paid. So it is attractive to go in and have this ability to be able to generate your own income, let's just say, and be in control of that. I also think what plays into it is that there's a low barrier to entry. So you couldn't go and be a self-employed lawyer with no lawyer qualifications or experience behind you. You couldn't. But unfortunately, in this job, all I need to do is change my name on Instagram to online coach, and now I'm an online coach. So I feel like the barrier to entry is so much lower. That's why. If there was some kind of qualification or certification system where you had to do 5 years of in-person PT before you were able to progress and it was all monitored, it's obviously never going to happen. But in that case, then it probably would be similar to law or some other kind of profession, corporate job or something like that, where the odd person might break off and start their own law firm or do some freelance work, some consultancy or something like that. And it would be more structured. But that's just not going to happen when in a world where you can diet down and then put online coach and then start to get clients. It's too easy to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the last question I ask everyone that comes on this show is, name me one thing that you have changed your mind on.
Name me one thing that I've changed my mind on. Oh, God, that's a tough question.
Because I think whilst you're thinking of it, I always think that we put people on a pedestal when we see them on social media. People are coming for you, probably think you've got all your act together, you've got this great business and very successful team around you and great results. But people don't realise and see the work that it took to get up there. So what's like one thing that you believe now that maybe you didn't believe 5 or 10 years ago?
So the one thing that I didn't believe... See, this was tough. So I'm going to explain why I think this is tough. And maybe this is just me that's maybe too stubborn or set in my ways. I'm going to explain why this is tough. Is because when I first started, I had a belief that I was going to be successful. Like, I had something within me where I just knew that I could stand out. And I just knew it to the core of me. So I was told when I was starting this not to do it. I was told, don't do it, by my old boss in the RAF, trying to push me to write my CV to go into an engineering job. My parents didn't want me to do it. I was already a qualified engineer. I'd already got a profession. But there was something in me where I was like, I know I can make a business out of it. I know that I can do it, and I know that I can be successful, and I know that I can help people. So if you'd have told me 8 years ago you'd be where you are now, I'd have believed it. Like, I would have believed it, because I did believe in myself. I also have really bad self-doubt, as daft as it sounds, but that's what drives me forwards. I really, really criticise everything about myself in every kind of level. I'm still trying to think in the back of my mind somewhere about something I've changed my mind on. But I'm really critical about myself in every level. And this stems back to my childhood. Like, I've worked with a therapist on this kind of stuff. I'm not particularly that self-confident, yet I have confidence in myself. It's so strange. So my motivator is not by success. My motivator is not by success. I don't care about finances. I don't care about money, which is finances, but cars, watches, houses. I don't care. I'm really grateful and lucky to have some nice things, but I really don't care. That's not what drives me. What drives me is the fear of failure. What drives me is things are going to be taken away in 6 months. What drives me is what are people going to think of me if I fail. Like, it's those things that are so deep rooted within me that just pushes me to work and work and work. I literally couldn't care what I earned. I really couldn't. And it's those things that really push me. So, like, in terms of what I've changed from my, again, I'm really going off on a tangent and I'm struggling here. I don't know whether I have changed my mind with anything. Like, I genuinely am. Okay, the one thing I have changed my mind on is that I'm not the finished article, right? That I do need to work on myself. There was a period of time that I was blind and I thought I was right in every argument. I thought my opinions mattered most. And I think because I was too afraid to be wrong, I was too afraid to look bad. And I think what I have changed my opinion on is that I do need to work on myself, that there are things I need to learn about myself, that I do have room to grow as a person in business and outside of business. Whereas before I was kind of ignorant to that. The talk of, for example, therapy, 3 years ago, I would have been like, I don't need to speak to a therapist. And now I love the fact that I speak to a therapist. So I'd probably say that that's the thing, probably slightly more of a holistic answer and definitely a long-winded one that you were hoping for. But I struggled with that.
I love that, though. I think this is about the 141st recording that I've done of this show. And I think that's probably the best answer that we've had. So I love the tangent. And I love the fact that it's, that, as I said, that we're not the finished article. I think that's a good message to leave on. So for people that want to learn more about you, see your content, see your unapologetically you dialed up to 11, where can people find you and Dan?
Yeah, so don't plug Dan, will you? Come and follow me. It's Mike Biceps Banter on Instagram and it's Dan Biceps Banter on Instagram. We have a YouTube channel as well, Biceps and Banter. Those are the two main areas that you're going to be able to find us. But yeah, thank you very much.
Mate, thank you for coming on. It's been really, really good fun.
Yeah, absolute pleasure, mate.